Now let's move on to the second panel for the day, which is on how corporate brands and lifestyle assets will make over to address new consumer experience, global perspective. This session will be around for 45 minutes, followed by question and answer for 15 minutes. The speakers for this session are Mr. Samir Modi, founder and president of 27 Modicare Colorbar, Kyron Kroll, Vice President of Global Marketing and Head Global Brand Licensing Electrolux, Roberto Brie, CEO Private Collection and Co. Marie Claire Paris, Mark Bezondis, Managing Director Licensing and International Development, Perry Ellis International Europe. The session moderator would be Cristina Angelucci, Editor-in-Chief, Licensing Magazine. Thank you, Cristina, for being with us today. Over to you.
I asked to the organizer to allow me to turn on the video. I can be seen. Okay, here I am. So thanks for the organizers to have invited me for this session, and also thanks to the other guests that I don't see them here, all of them. So I would ask to Roberto and to Samir Modi, Kieran Coyle, and to Mark to show themselves, if they can. Here, Roberto. Kieran, hi Kieran, how are you?
Hey Cristina, I'm good, but it's the organizer who's muted my video.
Okay, so now I can see you and I can hear you. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Mark, I see Mark, and hi Mark.
Hi.
And
Hi Mark.
Samir, where is Samir? I can see.
I'm here. Hi, how are you?
Samir, hi. So we have to be very honest. Everything is really live, and so it will be a very open discussion on how corporate brands, in this session we will talk about corporate brands, are facing this very uncertain period. We know very well how things are going globally, and we know how every part of the world has reacted since January, and now is reacting nowadays to this virus, and also how it is impacting very strongly on everything that is about brands and customers in particular. So the customer approach to brands that is affecting a lot. So now we will have a discussion with the panelists on how every single brand they are working on, they represent, is facing this period. One of the big challenges, I would say, of these days, how we have to face a kind of new approach of how brands communicate through their customers. So I would love to share this very first question with these speakers, and I will follow the order of the speaker session. So I will ask to Samir Modi first to go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Cristina, for the introduction. I feel that in the new you, brands will have to re-engineer themselves completely. Artificial intelligence, virtual reality, social media are going to become prime. And how do you touch your consumer is going to be the most important factor that's going to happen. No longer are people going to be concerned by coming into a store. There'll be more and more people are going to look to a web experience. And for example, my companies today, especially Colorbar Cosmetics, is developing an AI and virtual reality that customers can get the same experience online that they would get offline. So online, offline, what you call O2O strategy will become very, very important for brands.
Yeah, okay. And so what about, of course, I think that the digital and also online experience is one of the main topics of all the brand owners, licensors, and also licensees. Kieran, what about your experience with Electrolux in terms of brand communication in this period?
Yeah, I think for us in the group, because we have over 70 brands in the group, so each brand, I think as I mentioned before in the previous session, each brand of course has its own identity. The communication must reflect that. But I think, I think we need to consider, not just the brand, but the trends. So we've got work going on within the group looking at trends actually by market as a direct result of COVID. And those trends have kind of developed starting in kind of January, February through to now, from in many markets moving from kind of, fear and anxiety through now to kind of limited acceptance as markets start to open up. And we've seen then a move towards more trusted brands. So the more trusted your brand is, we've seen the move towards that. We've also seen the move globally actually towards more mid-market brands as well, brands that maybe will develop and deliver kind of a bit more value as economies recover, because the amount of disposable income is not there. But really brand by brand within the group, of course we have Electrolux, but we also have Frigidaire, which is a huge brand in North America. But in North America, there has been no drop off in demand, because in North America, first of all, Frigidaire is in that mid-market position, but also the retailers where we sell have not closed. And that's often the many big boxes. If some of you are familiar with Lowe's and Home Depot and others, they've stayed open. And if you compare that with the fashion industry, where a lot of retailers, Neiman Marcus, JCPenney, J.Crew have gone into bankruptcy. The fashion industry has suffered, greatly. And then if we compare that with, the trends where people are, for example, cooking more at home, obviously because they're spending more time at home, where actually we've seen a move towards a more sustainable eating and more sustainable living. And if we look at trends where people are looking at new ways of being hygienic, so our air care business, our water care business, our floor care business have all had a great boost. Interestingly, people are cleaning more but doing laundry less. So go figure. I don't know, but certainly they are interested in, how they wash, how they clean. So looking at those trends, the effect, the economic effect, the move towards trusted brands, and then as was mentioned actually in the previous session, the move to online. People now are much more comfortable buying online. They're much more comfortable actually, if we look at some of the research we've done in Asia, a lot of seniors, what we might describe as seniors, have moved to buy online with confidence, whereas in the past, they would have been maybe a bit reluctant to do that. We now have got to make sure that not only do we have the right offering to meet the needs in terms of the changing trends, the changing economic conditions, but also that we can service online, that people are able to make the right selections and that we have the distribution set up. And that can be particularly challenging in different markets. So really, as I say, there's not a one-size-fits-all answer to this. It's really combining from a brand point of view, from an economic point of view, from a distribution point of view, retailer point of view. But certainly there's an opportunity on the licensing side, because we as a company, again, without disclosing too many plans, may well move to license categories that in the past, we would have either made ourselves or sourced ourselves because we want to focus maybe on certain core products, which is a smaller range, a more focused range than maybe it was in the past. So those other products which consumers demand, but maybe are not the most economic for us, we'll now consider for licensing.
Yeah, I think you have touched so many issues and so many aspects of this. I think a big thing, it's of course a big revolution. I mean, nothing will be as the same after what we call the new normal, no? And even we don't know what will be the new normal. And for the brands, I think is exactly the same big challenge. So I totally agree with you that it will be something very new for retail and for distribution, and also for the way they will approach every brand. And as we know, so far the online e-commerce was already a big trend, but now is the main way that the customers feel safe to buy instead of going to retail. As you may know, in Europe, some retailers have started back to open, And but in any case, they are pretty empty as well, because customers don't feel safe to go to make shopping again. So Roberto, what about your experience with Marie Claire communication, as the brand Marie Claire is communicating to their customers and fan base?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me. And yes, I can say what Marie Claire is, because what Marie Claire is means exactly what Marie Claire is doing. First of all, Marie Claire is a content generation, is a media, is a publisher. So is a publisher dedicated, committed to women. Just two key numbers: 80 million women across 27 countries, just to give you roughly an idea. Of course, Marie Claire is very well known for its brand, but even more, is very well known and reputed for the quality of its content. So what Marie Claire is doing now is just emphasizing on content quality. This is certainly what Marie Claire is doing and is constantly doing since 50 years. Of course, the big change is in between print and digital. For a media group, print is a real issue, and is a real issue during lockdown, for sure. On the other hand, digital communication is becoming fantastically promising, and with a fantastic opportunity to introduce new content, introduce new devices. So this is basically where the group is. But coming to our licensing business, this is exactly the opposite. I would say that licensing business for Marie Claire, as often happens, is product derivation, branded product derivation, and content and communication is where eventually there is a lot to do during this pandemic era, and even more in the near future.
Sorry. And so what about...
I can be more specific, but I don't want to keep too much time.
And also to catch all the questions that I will love to do then. So then, Mark, if you can tell us also about your experience. Sorry, we have some. Okay, so Mark, so Mark, if you can tell also about your experience and point of view. Now we are talking about how brands are communicating through their customers in this period.
Sure. So obviously, Perry Ellis, we're a global business. So we operate literally in every territory globally. And we're in a fairly unique position where we're a retailer, a manufacturer, a licensee, and a licensor. So this storm couldn't be a lot worse if it tried, as far as we're concerned. But looking to the positives, to many points already made, as a brand, it's all about communication. We've seen double-digit growth online with our online stores. And where stores have started to open up again, we are seeing significant year-on-year growth. So just to, we've looked at Europe. Germany is already open. France, some stores are opening now in mainland Europe as well. We're aware that Primark, for example, opened last Saturday. It did 26% up year-on-year. It's averaging out at 12 points up on a year-on-year growth. So we know there's a pent-up demand within the market. We know that certainly some of our brands, when communicated in the right way, there's an opportunity there. This is going to be a real volatile 3 to 6 months where brands kind of level out. Some brands are going to disappear, and that's really, really sad, but that is unfortunately the truth of the matter. And some brands will come through. To a point that was made by one of my panelists earlier, I think the older brands, heritage brands, as we probably call them in licensing, they are in an extremely strong position. They're well known within the market, and if they can communicate in the right way, with the right emotion and empathy, then there's an opportunity there. So really what we're doing as a group is looking at the different pillars of revenue that we have, from online to in-store and content, and trying to make sure that they're communicating in the right way as and when the markets open up. So as I say, China's already open. We're seeing Asia coming online. We're seeing some revenue picking up. Europe's back. South America, that's a whole nother challenge. America open, but to the point of an earlier speaker, it's the bigger big box stores. So opportunities there, but in limited numbers. But really, I think for the most important thing for us at the moment is the communication is constant and relevant, and with the right tone, because ultimately, as much as you can gain in markets like this, you can also lose. I think a really good example is if you go back to the 80s, I don't know if anyone's old enough to remember that, but back in the 80s, we had a significant recession, and IBM continued to advertise and market aggressively in that marketplace, where everyone else at that time started to pull out of their marketing spend. And then what happened was, when the market came back, IBM boomed. I mean, they did significant growth in a short period of time because everyone looked at them as a trusted brand and a trusted kind of operating system. And that's exactly what we're going to see now in the next 3 to 6 months. Is gaps are going to appear, and if you're right about the way that you communicate and that you touch in the right way, there will be opportunities. Obviously, I'm aware that there are significant challenges still ahead of us. And unfortunately, I really don't think that we've seen the biggest waves yet. But I think if we hold on tight, then things will be all right in the end.
Great. So we are already collecting some questions for you, but if you agree, we make first a round among us, and then I share with you the questions we have from our audience. The other point is after we have talked about how communication has changed for brands, I would say that another big issue for brand owners and also for big licensors is how they should or how they are working on new business models, because as far as we know, everything has changed. So also the business somehow is affecting from everything that is happening now and will happen then. And so also, if and how have you approached new business models, of course, to your business? So Samir, I will start again with you.
Can you just read the question, sorry?
So how have you changed, or if you plan to change your business model?
So we have actually shifted our business model to be more e-commerce led rather than more offline led. So earlier we used to do about a 15% business online, and now we're looking at doing almost 50% business online by bringing virtual reality, AI, by actually bringing our beauty advisors online rather than offline. So that's a very big change for us.
Okay, but don't you think that in the future, hopefully, I think that as soon as possible, let's say by the end of the year, hopefully, we will be back to a kind of new normal. And so also when we will be back, that we can be, again, free to travel and go through shops and, to act as before. We will again be free to travel and buy. Also in that case, you will go ahead with this strategy.
So I agree with you that the new normal is going to come later this year, or probably next year. But at the same time, online is going to become very, very important. Because during lockdown, all we had to do was online shopping or online browsing or social media. So people who are not adept to using the online channel have now become adept, and they will continue to use that. And therefore, I feel that online will be very big. While offline, we're taking all the precautions for sanitization to make sure that the touch points are sanitized, the consumers feel safe. So the combination of both, that will change in the new you. The new you will definitely have a stronger presence of online. And that's my honest view on going forward.
I understand. So, okay, Kieran, so now we see you in front. It's much better.
Yeah, I keep moving the camera around. I've got 2 cameras and neither one was working. So,
wow. Okay.
So, and 2 cameras is too many for me.
The case of the future business model, the change of business model, is something that is also, an approach for you, or is something you won't consider?
No, I think frankly, anyone who doesn't consider a change in business model doesn't understand what's happening. We're approaching it from probably 3 different angles. And again, bearing in mind that, we are a big group, we're in, 150 markets. 75 of those markets, we have licensed product as well. So we're not necessarily approaching the licensing different from our core, because, a licensed brand is for a consumer, it makes a difference whether it's licensed or whether it's made by us. So let me briefly say then what we're looking at. We're looking at, first of all, from a brand point of view and brand desirability. And that's a direct reflection of the fact that people are moving towards more trusted brands, as I mentioned a moment ago. And driving brand desirability is not a simple thing. It's not a simple thing. And we need to be much more active online with our messaging. It does vary market to market, but I think, that's not an area that we have focused on. A lot of our brands are 100 years old. They are kind of strong heritage, well-known brands. But the important thing with brand is, when people are buying, is top 3 consideration. If you're not in the top 3 consideration in a market when people are first thinking of what they want to buy, then the odds are that they won't choose your brand. Right? There are impulse buys and other buys, but essentially, pretty much all research shows that if you're not in the top 3 consideration, you're going to struggle in a particular market, and especially in our core business of appliances, which is highly competitive. So that's our first area of driving. It's the relationship with our brand, and we have a certain advantage in this current situation because unfortunately, a lot of people have been confined to home, and a lot of our brands are all about the home. Whether it's cooking, it's laundry, whether it's floor care, air care, water care, a lot of our brands and our licensed products are about the home. So it's reinforcing that messaging. The second area, which we were already moving towards before, is data and analytics, and spending a lot more effort and energy in understanding the buying patterns of our consumers, existing consumers, understanding the whole consumer journey, and at which points decisions are being made. And that's both online and offline, because I think, as we all know, sometimes people would look at a product online, then they'll go to the store and kick it and tap it and twist the knobs, and then they may buy it there, or they may buy it again online. So we need to have that seamless consumer journey online and offline. And we need to kind of use our data and analytics more commercially. So we spend a lot of time now on the insight side and on understanding our consumer and making the consumer actually the heart of the business model. And then lastly, digital. We're already moving as a company to improving the whole online experience of our consumers. But now we're building out the online platform side, either what we offer ourselves or our other partners. And, we're all familiar with what are some of the strongest online players around the world, and working with them. Now, that was something that was challenging years ago, because our bricks and mortar retailers or offline retailers often resisted us moving online, because then they saw it as a competitor, right? And we've all had that experience where you can get a little bit of resistance from your older customers, retailers, who may be a little angry that you are moving online and maybe feel competing with them. But in this new reality, that's where our consumers are. And so we need to be there too. We need to be online and offline. So those 3 areas, Cristina, are the areas that we're focusing on now to refine our business model, and then overall just be more focused, more laser sharp in the business.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So what about Roberto?
Yes, I think I would like to talk a little more about what's going on for Marie Claire in India. I believe our audience is specifically listening to it. Huh?
Mainly Indian, and I think also some European as well. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, of course, we are all working on changing attitudes. Somehow it's funny what we are seeing at the TV. And Cristina, because we have been in phase 2 in Italy, actually approaching phase 2 in France. And what you see is dramatically comics and ridiculous. So back to normality means exactly what we didn't want to. Back to normality is packing the squares, packing the pubs, packing the restaurants, queuing, fighting in the car, and so on. We
want exactly what it was before, or we want something different?
So this is not what changing attitude means to me. What means to me, and is really the focus, is to understand how social issue can impact on consumer choice. No, basically, how the changing of attitude could impact on going to buy my product now related to before the pandemic and eventually after this time. So my point is that we are in licensing, and we are licensing fashion through Marie Claire brand. We're licensing fashion, we're licensing beauty, home, interiors, up to hospitality. In India, we're pretty young. We are just a few years old. So in some other areas of the world, Marie Claire is licensing the brand name since over 30 years. So with different approach and different maturity, I would say. In India, we have a fashion accessories, and 100% online business model that we will keep. But of course, what I need to introduce is what is called workshop, what is called experimental workshop. This would be something new to introduce because it's a fantastic opportunity to get in touch with the client in a new physical way, I would say. When I say new physical way, you know how frustrated we are in terms of physical contact because of the pandemic time. So to understand how to meet with your customer, to meet physically with your customer would be a fantastic opportunity. I think that an experimental workshop will be organized as what we can say a list of special projects with our fashion partner, beauty partner, or home or interiors or up to hospitality partner. I think special project would be the lecture of what is changing and what is going to be the change. But of course, I would add something more. I have a nice point that come to my mind during these last weeks because I'm working on a new project, and I have been focusing and introducing new project through what the brand would bring as a positive contribution to his community, to his society. So this is where I see Marie Claire going. And of course, I have few, if we have some time, few real and concrete example that we can discuss. But of course, this is basically in the end is positive contribution is my key for the future. Rethinking the behavior through workshops, through special projects to enhance local culture, to enhance local craftsmanship, to enhance local territory, communities. This is what I have in mind.
Yeah, I think that in particular, the value and the content of the brand is what will make the difference in the future. As also Kieran said before, the customers will go where they trust. So if they trust on that brand is what they will buy. So they won't buy simply a consumer product. They will buy a group of values and positive messages that also in this period will make the difference. So much more than before. Okay.
That's true, but the price point...
Your time. See.
Sorry, but the price point is going to be key. To Kieran's point, yeah. I mean, we as brand owners, we can talk and give the right message, but price is going to become more sensitive, certainly for the foreseeable future, than it has been since the financial crash. And I think Kieran made a really good point earlier about there are certain brands that will have an opportunity within the market because of those price points, because certain brands just won't be able to come down and compete. And that is going to be an interesting, in terms of the world of brands, it'll be interesting to see how that interacts and change and things change around that. Sorry.
No, Mark, I was right asking to you your opinion about how, if and how you will change your new business models. About prices, if I can just say, I totally do agree with you. I mean, the price will be a key choice for customers, but I can also say that in certain territories, quality also is a key. So of course, you know, it's always a cultural matter. So if you go to see which is the German attitude. So for German people, the price is always a key point, and they prefer to have basic products instead of very stylish products. But the important matter is the price.
I think the key word is value.
Yeah. That is, but also, for example, if I compare to France and Italy, for example, just to talk about two markets where fashion is a key, quality somehow is more important than only the price. Of course, also price, so the comparison of both, so price and quality together, then make the very final difference. But what about your opinion? I mean, for you, I mean, for your company. So how, if and how are you working to change your business model?
I think for us, online, we've mentioned it many times, is now critical. It's always been critical, but it's more critical. One of the interesting things that's happening is that social media has become even more of a challenging environment, but also the opportunities are huge, because social media, in terms of influencers, the influencers that you can now get access to in terms of price points is changed dramatically, because obviously there isn't the volume of work there. So we've started working with more and more influencers now. We're looking in terms of retail, we're looking at how we can work with the queues, because people will have to queue. So that actually brings an opportunity, because if you can use technology to interact, you can do discounting, you can do vouchers. There's all kinds of ways you can use technology with people that are waiting to come into your store, be that through collection in store. So I think there's opportunity, there's new touch points that are coming about that we're looking at from a retail perspective. And then from wholesale, also from SMUs, about utilizing the tech that's online. To Sammy's point, people are not going to want to shop as much, but they are going to want to shop. So we've been looking at experiential as a huge driver for retail, and we're now accelerating those plans. Obviously challenging because of the financial situation we find ourselves in, but people are going to want a reason to shop. I think if you look at the shopping malls that have been built over the last 10, 20 years, the mix was 70-30 entertainment. And now, certainly the malls that I've been working with in the Middle East, the mix is flipped. It's all about getting people to come and do things, and entertainment-based as opposed to retail-based. And we're going to see more and more and more of that, because people aren't going to simply want to go to a shop to buy clothes anymore. They need many more reasons now. So Sammy's right in what he's saying, and it's how we look at that from an experience perspective, utilizing the guidelines that are in place to make sure people remain safe, but at the same time, capturing that customer when they're anywhere in relation to our brands or our stores.
Okay. Then Mark said also about retail. Retail, of course, is a key point. Everybody is talking about going online, of course, but the traditional retail, if you want to call that in that way, somehow has to survive in the future new normal world. So how you are considering to help to support your licensees, partners, and also your eventually retail partner also, or in any case, how do you see licensees and retail partnerships can go ahead in the next future, going beyond the online? I mean, we have already said that online and digital will be key, but so let's talk about your perspective in the future. So the support to licensees and retailers. So Samir, again to you.
My big thing is going to be that irrespective of the way things are going to be, I feel that safety is going to become a very big important aspect for marketers, retailers. They will be here to stay, but safety is going to be very important, and the experience they get is going to be very different. For example, I was in a garment shop 3 days ago, and I couldn't try any clothes on because they said that trying clothes is not allowed any longer. Take the clothes home. You have 1 week to return them. So I think those challenges are going to prop up in retail, and it's all about how we handle them. We are. I mean, I run 3 businesses: one direct marketing and 2 are hardcore retail businesses. I'm finding that touch points become very important. And I run a convenience store business by the name of 24/7, and that is all about safety. People who come in, social distancing, your employees wearing gloves, face masks, face shields. So those are things that will start changing the way we look at the new normal.
So what, Kieran, what about you? So your licensing partners, and if you have some retail in particular you're working with for your licensed products, I mean, how do you plan to support them for their future new normal world?
Yeah, I mean, it's very different market to market. If I compare the US, then there hasn't really been a slowdown. In fact, for example, we license mini fridges in the US, and that business has nearly doubled in the last 2 months. We also license a lot of other homewares. That business has also grown for 2 reasons: the demand has increased, and the go-to-market is there because people are able to go and buy it, and that's both online and offline. If you look at Walmart announced last week that their business had grown 10%. Lowe's business. So in the US, it isn't actually there isn't a support. I think, as Samir just mentioned, we of course need to consider what is now the new experience. And for us, we think the consumer experience is primary. It's primary on their journey before they choose your brand and then the product, and it's primary when they own it, and it's primary when they're thinking about changing it or renewing it or repairing it. And so for us, when we think about that experience, of course, it's going to be different now in store. And we can't separate the online and offline. We can't think this is what we focus on for retail. We focus on the consumer. And by focusing on the consumer, we think about their whole journey. And therefore, the experience in retail has to blend with the experience online. Now, the difference is to some extent, we have some control over the online experience where it's our own, for example, our own websites, etc. And we have a bit less control where it might be with a partner like Amazon or other online partners. But the whole kind of understanding from consumers about the experience and the feedback and the reviews from them is what's kind of driving our plans. Now, the extent to which retailers have, as Mark mentioned, maybe they have lines outside the door and they're restricting the number that can come in, and maybe there's restrictions on products that can be touched or handled, etc. That's something that's a bit outside our control, right? Something we need to understand, but it's not something that we can directly affect. So we need to be thinking about, in terms of the consumer, how can we account for that in terms of our relationship with the consumer? And that might be by giving them maybe a richer online experience. Sorry to keep coming back to it, but for us, it's seamless. The two have to work together. In Europe, let's see what's going to happen, because as retailers open, I think some of those retailers are going to go to the wall. I think there's going to be more consolidation. I think if we look at buying trends, then in our research, then certainly the consumer electronics business is going to be hit a little bit. It looks like there's going to be less demand for consumer electronics than there was in the past. So we'll need to look by retailer, by category, by brand, by territory, and try and be focused. Because again, if we're trying to focus on the consumer, then we have to look at the consumer in life, in their journey in that market. And there's no way that we can have, even if we have brands that are global, there is no one size fits all. And it has to be seamless. But different retailers are probably going to approach this in different ways, and we need to understand that as well. And then we need to understand the buying experience. Because for us, we do have products like mini fridges that are very close to our core products under license, but we also license solar. solar energy. Now, sustainability is something that, not to switch subjects, Cristina, but sustainability now is clearly much more on people's minds than it was before. Not just in sustainable eating, but sustainable living. And we need to be close to that. Now, we don't sell solar through retail. You know, that's a very different buying experience. And I could go on and on about the different licensed products and categories we have, but there is no one size fits all. But if you start with the consumer and how they buy, how they purchase, and how they're moving to this equation of, you know, price quality equals the value for it, how they're shifting, because there's no one metric. It's not just quality, not just price. And if we look at the fashion industry, true luxury is rarely licensed, luxury products, and rarely is affected in downturns. If you look at the 2008, 2009 downturn, the luxury market still goes on. People still buy at the very high end, but that's rarely licensed. But if we're looking at, you know, the other products, you know, in the fashion industry, watches, eyewear, fragrance, of course that's affected, but the true high end isn't. So looking at the shift towards those brands, because I don't recommend that a brand suddenly drops its prices. You kill the brand. The brand is positioned where brands, But how do they make themselves more accessible? How do they make that value more evident to consumers in difficult times? How do they shift? How do they also extend through licensing into other product areas that the fashion industry has done for years? They bring people into the brands through fragrance, eyewear, and watches, not through selling couture lines. So I think that flexibility, that modeling, understanding the brand, the retail environment, the journey around the consumer in each market is what's going to be key. And that requires a lot of flexibility, a lot of agility, and a lot of data and analytics to understand what's happening in real time.
Yeah, I will say that now you have said a crucial point that is also about, I totally agree with you. So how everything is different based on categories and the kind of products, and of course, also the different kind of retailers. And I would say that among all the different types of retailers, fashion retailers will be the most affected by this crisis, because well, first of all, fashion won't be the first thing that the consumers will have in mind as soon as they go out, because many people will keep on working on smart working. Many others don't consider to go to holidays pretty soon, and you know how much tourism also involves so many different kind of business, including fashion as well. So if you consider the spring summer collection, for example, no? Yes, fashion would say that is one of the most critical categories, and including the retailers as well in this period. And I think also about Roberto, no? Marie Claire is a lifestyle brand, and as you said before, is developed through fashion. So what about you, how you are supporting your retail and licenses partners in this period when fashion is not considered so important?
Yes, of course, you're right saying that fashion is heavily affected, except high end, of course. 100% with you. We are in affordable luxury, small prices, almost for not in a fast fashion ritual, but to give customer the possibility to enjoy shopping. So this is where Marie Claire is. Of course, fashion has been affected in India, I would say, more through logistic lockdown than specific needs. But where the brand comes is, once again, in bringing a positive contribution. I'm insisting on this word. This is exactly what I have in mind, is the motivation, and let me tell you, somehow also the generosity. So brand can communicate on generosity. Brand can communicate more about to bring a positive contribution. So this is my vision, this is my commitment, and of course through Marie Claire as a content generator, I think we have a lot to do in adding to product and services this direction of messages. This is my vision. Of course, once again, in India, we are young, and the business model in fashion accessories is 100% online, which we wanted to. But of course, once again, to connect with customers, I want to bring a project, what is called, generally speaking, temporary stores. You know what I mean? We have been saturated about pop-up and temporary stores in the last few years. Where I see the innovation in temporary stores is once again to catch the elements for the innovation, to catch the element for new shopping concept experiences. So I think what the brand should do together in partner with licensee is just to activate on the workshop, on temporary store, on special project, just to connect and reconnect physically, once again, physically with the community and society.
Yeah, so I agree with you. We sooner or later we have to go back to the physical approach, hopefully.
No, it's a specific time to reconnect with physical approach. It's so specific. We are so suffering of having been confined with the protection, with the gel, masks and gloves, that of course we are very much sensitive to it. Yeah. And once again, temporary areas, workshops will bring us to a next generation of physical spaces somehow. You know, I just signed a project before the COVID. We have signed in India for hospitality to open boutique hotel branded Marie-Claire Paris for India, Sri Lanka, Mauritius. So basically, the nice destination for Indian couples or Indian families to go for a weekend, to go for holidays. And of course, this project will be postponed for at least 6 up to 12 months, of course. But once again, thinking about lounge rooms, restaurant spaces as a next generation spaces, this is a mission for a brand today. So it's a great opportunity to reconnect with the community, but we need to experience this.
Yeah, and pass through a certain period, this period. So, Mark, what about you? So, your marketing approach to retail, and how you are supporting your licensees, partners, and how you plan to support them for what will be the future?
Yeah, sure. I mean, each partner we have, obviously, I mean, I have over 31 brands in my portfolio, so there's no one size fits all. But certainly, we're looking across the landscape globally, and to Kieran's point, really trying to help where we can with retailers that are back in market. So in terms of in-store, online, utilizing our own marketing channels, of course, where appropriate, and also to someone else's point they made earlier about looking at other channels, other retailers that we may or may not have worked with in the past. We're now looking at in more detail to try and work out how we can work with them, if at all. I think, it is a new world, and there's no such thing as a bad idea. And certainly for licensees, particularly, these are people that have signed up contractually to substantial revenue. So we have to help them to achieve what we've set out, as their vision and goal. Looking at, as I say, looking at their retail channels, their wholesalers, distribution, certainly markets where maybe there weren't such significant opportunities. We're now looking at them in more detail. We have to expand our global footprint. There's no doubt about it. As an American business, we're heavily reliant on the American side of our business unit, but that's changing, and has been, in fairness, before COVID. Certainly because of the the other thing that's coming down the track that's going to affect us as well is obviously the trade war between China and America. So there are multiple things that are going to come down as a result of COVID that we need to be aware of as well. And it's all about, as I said before, it's about multiple touch points, helping where you can in-house, externally, talking to our contacts, talking to our suppliers, our wholesalers, our retailers, and making sure they're aware that we're there. And I think the other thing that's going to come down the track in terms of fashion retail is stock. There's going to be an issue with stock. A lot of people cancelled orders immediately when COVID hit. So yes, the market's going to open and yes, there'll be stock in market. But there's going to be a point where potentially you're going to have retailers where they won't have anything to sell. So there's other challenges that are coming down the track. So yes, right here, right now, it's about staying in contact and trying to get stores open. But ultimately, we've got to look way beyond that. I mean, we work 18 months ahead of the market, as I'm sure most of us do. So we're having to try and second guess what's going on. It's like, okay, well, if, for example, you know, if, I don't know, if one of the Debenhams or some one of those guys goes under, how are we going to replace that revenue? Okay, well, who else can we work with? So we have to be really nimble on our feet, constant communication with our licensees, constant communication globally, and trying to help them where they can. If they've got a contact in Turkey and we don't sell in Turkey and Turkey's all of a sudden an opportunity, let's look at it. Let's fast track that. I think now is not the time to be precious. Now is the time to be open and to really, you know, and work collaboratively with all of your partners.
But according to you, Mark, it will happen that, you know, many big fashion brands, I would say the first is Armani, who made an article, a very interesting article during lockdown period and said that we should jump entirely the spring-summer collection 2020 and go and don't produce a future 2021 collection, but go ahead on retail with the 2020 as it was totally over. I mean, as nobody could buy it. So go slower with the fashion, produce less, and change. So the approach, the fashion approach, and get a deeper experience with the customer, not going so fast as the fashion was used to be so fast.
Yeah.
Before. Yeah. So I will ask to the organizer, how does he work with the question and answer? Because we do have some questions.
Okay, yeah, I will take it over. Thank you all for the wonderful session and sharing your valuable thoughts. We'll move on to the question and answer sessions. Can I have the audio for Mr. Naresh? Mr. Naresh Ahuja. Okay. I'll ask his question. His question is that
Hello.
Okay, hello. He's there.
Yeah, sorry.
Mr. Naresh, you can ask your question now.
Yeah. 1 minute. Can I ask after 1 minute? Just give me 1 minute.
Yeah, sure.
Take the other question meanwhile.
No problem. Can we have the audio for Mr. Vijay?
Hello.
Yeah, Vijay, sir, you can ask your question now.
Yeah, like I have a question, like, you know, that like as I mentioned there that, you know, we are in the fashion industries and we carry two big brands, Cross and Police. So how, because we are the biggest manufacturers, so how we can grow more, you know, because you're selling that, you know, because in the whole seminar you will focusing more upon the digital marketing. As you know that we are the manufacturers, so currently we are not having much focus on on this digital marketing. So how we can grow it more, you know, through offline. And secondly, you know, we are planning to have more brands into our basket. So which brand will be good, because we are into the leather industries. So which brand will be good for us to go with more? Hello.
Who's the question for?
Like it was generally for everyone.
Yeah, so we could start with the same tour. So Samir, first you, if you want to answer to this question. The microphone, Samir, the microphone, your microphone.
My question to Vijay would be, or the answer to Vijay would be that since you're manufacturers of footwear, the only way to do it is tie up with people who are online, multi-brand stores who are online. That is the best mechanism to reach out.
Actually, we are not footwear. We are into leather industries.
Leather industry. Sorry, my apologies. What do you make in leather industry?
Like SLGs,
I'm sorry?
like bags, wallets,
So,
belts.
do you do private label or do you do
private label as well, and we have the license for cross and police as well, both.
So I think the best way would be to get into multi-brand stores. Online multi-brand stores would be the best option for you to market your product and the licensed product that you have.
Okay, that basically means you're saying that we should partnership with the Amazons or in India like Flipkarts with these companies.
Yeah, the likes of those. Yes, not Amazon, but companies that are fully focused on the leather goods and multi-branded items, like probably you can get into Myntra, websites like that.
Okay. And so like you're saying through online, we just have to partnership there. Through that we can grow. Apart from this, there is any other channel like to grow globally, because we are not only focusing on in India market domestic, but we are internationally, because we carry the international brands.
I think one of the things you need to look at is working with a brand that has its own stores. If you said you've got police, is that correct? I'll take that as a yes. So if you can work with a retailer that has its own stores, with a licensee that has its own stores, that would give you another opportunity as well. But Sammy's right. At the moment, you'll have to be looking at online. But don't forget, realistically, you're not going to be in market now till autumn, winter next year. So a lot will change. A lot will change in that time. So yes, focus on online for now. But realistically, if you signed a license, say with me tomorrow, we'd be looking autumn, winter 21. So we'd be looking at our stores and how we'd support you in our stores and our bricks and mortar. And we'd be looking for you in terms of distribution to focus online. But what we wouldn't want is for you to start out in the value market. And I think, going back to one of the points Kieran made earlier, is that yes, value and price is going to be extremely important, but it's about holding the line. It's about holding your brand value. Someone earlier made the point about luxury brands they fail to suffer in significant downturns. And a lot of brands are going to be looking at that and wondering, how do they go up? How do they shift up? So you're going to see collaborations in the market. So if you've got a license with police and I've got my Penguin license, for example, well, maybe there's a collaboration there where police and Penguin benefit at the same time. So it's about being clever. It's about cross-pollination across markets. Yes, it's online, of course, but at my point, you're working 12 months out. So don't get hung up on online at this stage. Bricks and mortar will come back, but it will be different.
Okay, can we have the audio for Mr. Naresh, please? Mr. Naresh, you can unmute and you can ask your question and answer.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you all. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Naresh, please go on.
Yeah.
Hello, Naresh, we can hear you.
Yeah. I want to know that in these difficult times of COVID, how are you helping your licensees to market are you helping them to market the products? Are you giving some support to them? Well, this is part one. Second is that how do you guarantee the quality of the product is in tune with your brand values and your standards? Do you have some system where you keep checks and you control the product quality and the packaging, and do you help those brands to give those type of packaging options and the designs? Do you help them in all these things, or only the brand name is given to the parties?
I think
I can
Cristina,
say something if you're
that
okay.
we talked about also style guide and so on. So Roberto, go ahead, please. Yes.
Just to share that licensing is a fantastic opportunity to work together, licensor and licensee. They're not just limited to sell IP, but of course there is a fantastic journey to do together. And in terms of product, in terms of quality, and in terms of ethic, there are many elements which are resume in a typical draft of process of approval and validation from the beginning, from the input until the output, including distribution, including management of stocks and so on. So it's very well detailed. So it's a full accompaniment with a good experience that the licensor normally bring on the table when it meets licensee. First of all. Second of all, how to assist the licensees during this pandemic time, of course, is really short. To give you my personal case, is really short to see the reaction, but of course is behind the critic time, is of course dedicated to the future, is of course understanding where are the difficult now. For instance, to make a real example, we are in a beauty salon as an opportunity of licensing Marie Claire, a successful opportunity. But of course, beauty salon have been badly affected by 2 months of lockdown. A few of them are obliged to shut down just because they couldn't match the request of the landlord in terms of, someone before said the retail is just a real estate operation, which somehow is right. If you don't have flexibility today in real estate, you die. So some of our new franchisee, because we have licensed the category through a possibility of franchising locally. So some of our new franchisee, they are obliged to shut down just because real estate conditions were very, very strict and rigid during this time. How to protect? Well, it's difficult to say. It's case by case and it's area by area. It's difficult, but of course, the concentration is there.
Okay. Hello.
Cristina, I can add very, very briefly, just to this very, very briefly, that we're actually buying products from our licensees and selling through our own online channels, to putting it along our other accessory products and other products, number one. And then the other question on quality, we do have a whole in-house quality team. So across Electrolux, we actually have 100 quality auditors. And 3 of those auditors actually are dedicated just to licensing. So the expectation is that a licensing partner can design, manufacture, and distribute. But we do more than just provide the guidelines. We also follow up at all stages of production, from authorizing manufacturers right through to checking at retail. Because, as was mentioned just now by Roberto, it's much more than just IP. It's about the consumer, and they must have a seamless experience between core product and licensed product.
I would agree. I mean, I follow exactly what Kieran's just said. That's exactly what we have. We have separate teams in place. It's exactly the same. And we're also buying product from licensees for online.
Yeah, licensing is something much more complex than just an AP. So if you want, we can make then some more training workshop on how to use brands for products.
All right. Thank you, everybody,
for
joining this wonderful session. Cristina, thank you so much for being the moderator. All the rest of the questions you can answer offline.
Thank you, Cristina. Thank you, everybody. It was lovely being together.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Cristina. Thank you to the organizers. It's been a lovely session.
Yeah, thanks so much. Super job, Cristina, and super job, Bradford License India. Great summit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Please, Mark.
Thanks, guys. Love to
Thank
meet
you.
you all. You
Bye-bye.
guys
Bye-bye.
stay safe, huh?
Thanks to the audience and to the wonderful speakers. Thanks to all of you, and see you soon.
Thank you, guys.